And here I am on the stone throne, right here in front of a campfire. Well, maybe it's a tea light, but I'm ready for today's spooky tale. And today we are looking at the tale of the Silver Sight with creator of Are You Afraid of the Dark, DJ MacHale. So stick around. Oh, simmer down.
Nickelodeon.
Welcome to Splat Attack, a 90s podcast honoring the slime-filled past. I'm your menacing waif kid, Kat.
I'm your car rolling through a junkyard, through a house, Jordy.
And I'm your sword-wielding suit of armor, Alex. And guys, why is there a campfire in the middle of the studio? It's dangerous. Whose idea was this?
We wanted to...
His?
I don't know, maybe it was hers, you know? I don't know. No, but I think we wanted to recreate the set from Are You Afraid of the Dark, because today's recording is a special one. We have a very special guest joining us today in the storyteller's chair.
Submitted for the approval of the Splat Attack crew, I call this episode The Tale of the Silver Sight.
And here he is, the master storyteller, the ghostwriter, the creator of childhood terrors himself, DJ MacHale.
Thank you. Thank you, DJ, for jumping in quite literally out of the fire and joining us here for this episode.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Always a
fun.
pleasure to speak to you guys.
Oh man, it's so cool. I was just telling the crew because Kat and Jordy, they've never really had the chance to meet you. I mean, we did a Go Figure last year, I think is when we did that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a year ago. Oh my gosh.
It's been a year. But they didn't really get to talk and interact, and they've always been, man, I is he that cool? He looks cool. He just acts cool. It's like, no, he's
cool
pretty
guy.
freaking cool. Before we get into questions, and you guys are in for a treat, because anytime DJ's here, it's always so much fun. He's always got so many good stories. But we are talking about the Tale of the Silver Sight, the 3-part episode, which this was released on April 2nd, 2000. I think this is one of the few 2000 episodes.
Y2K. Are You Afraid
Yeah.
of the Dark?
We're actually breaking into that a little bit, but still, Are You Afraid of the Dark is 90s, so it counts. Haha. This is from season 7, episodes 1, 2, and 3. It is the premiere. It was written by DJ MacHale and was directed by Mark Sollard. I hope I pronounced that right. You guys know how I am with names. But the very brief synopsis for those of you who may not have seen this episode, or the 3-part episode, is this very much takes place from the perspective of the Midnight Society.
Yeah.
Gary starts to realize that he has a grandfather who has passed away, and he's trying
Gary's
to figure out-
back. Gary's back.
Gary's back.
It starts with Gary, and he's had a nightmare. He's found out that his grandfather has passed away, and he because of this thing called the Silver Sight, and his grandfather was a founding member of the Midnight Society, and all of them found this mysterious thing called the Silver Sight, and they've all been killed from it, essentially. And now Gary is trying to piece together with the current Midnight Society, find these clues of a record that essentially has clues on them, and then once put together will tell them where to find the Silver Sight and how to destroy it, while also learning a lot of backstory of each member of the founding members of the Midnight Society in the process. So it's the new Midnight Society trying to right the wrongs of the old Midnight Society, and it's pretty cool.
It is one of the most special episodes, I think, in the entire series. It's the episode that literally helps set the tone of, like, this is the rest of the show has been encompassed. Everything that's ever happened in the show so far, every story they've ever told has to be now used to their own advantages. in a
Mhm.
real life mystery. And now they're not safe around the campfire telling these fake stories. They're out in the real world, and they're not in their safe space anymore. They have to actually be in the story. So it's such a cool story.
It is Are You Afraid of the Dark, the movie, or the Midnight Society's movie. It is their story that they're living. So it's pretty awesome.
So I guess we'll start with what was your inspiration for this particular tale?
The story itself, I have no idea.
That's fair.
This was truly a reverse engineered story. It's probably the most what's the right word? Um, Egocentric show that we did, or no, indulgent. Let's say indulgent
Okay.
that we did. It came about because we're in the last season of the show now. We're in season 7, and we know that we're done after this. And this was going to be the last show I was going to write. So this was my swan song. I mean, I was the showrunner, and the job of every showrunner of every show is to be the kind of the curator of the show, and as to work with all the creative people to make sure you kind of funnel them into homogenized into whatever the show happens to be. And that was my role in Are You Afraid of the Dark? And with a showrunner, all showrunners are writers. So whether you're writing yourself, working with other writers, that's probably the most important part of a showrunner. So I wasn't writing from the ground up a whole lot of episodes towards the end there, but I was working with all the other writers. They were the true Midnight Society, the writers. They're the ones that came up with the stories. So, but it's the last season. I'm not going to write an episode. But then I put the kind of pressure on myself to say, this is my swan song. I've got to. I can't just write some random episode what's going to rise to the level of my first episode is the Tale of the Prom Queen. My last one is going to be fill in the blank, and it's got to be can't just be some random episode that may suck or not be as good as it could be. I was like, what can I do that's something special? So, I'll give you guys a trivia question. How many Are You Afraid of the Dark stories are there on TV, not books and all that? Because how many stories are there?
Well, there's 91 episodes, but how many stories?
Well, there
Because
was-
there's the
because there were-
two-parter,
There's
and then
there's the rub.
Yeah.
So there's
Three-part.
91 episodes, but 3 of them were Tale of the Silver Sight, and
Right.
then
and then
2
the
of
Tale
them.
of Cutter's Treasure.
Yeah,
Yes,
Tale of
Cutter's
Cutter's Treasure. Do 2 stories in one count?
So 88 stories?
I'll do the math. 80. There are
88.
88 scripts were written for Are You Afraid of the Dark? So 91 is how many half-hour episodes there are.
Mhm.
When we did Cutter's Treasure, that was written as a 1-hour show. But it was always understood that I also had to deliver 2 half-hour episodes as well. So I wish it was that easy just to have done it.
Right.
Yeah.
But they were on to 2 episodes. So with that in mind, I thought, I had written a script for Paramount for an Are You Afraid of the Dark feature. This whole other story in itself that never got off the ground. So here, well, I'm not going to do something special. It's like, I'm going to write a movie. So Silver Sight didn't start as 3 episodes. It was the Are You Afraid of the Dark movie. It was a 90-minute movie.
That was actually one of my questions, is if it was meant to be viewed as like
Yes.
episodic, or if it was meant to be seen in all one sitting as a film.
One swell foop. So that's why I felt so indulgent, self-indulgent. It's when I said Nickelodeon, this is what I want to do. And what are they going to do? Fire me at this point? No, you can't do that. But having the Cutter's Treasure experience, that okay, you can do that movie as long as you then also deliver 3 half-hour episodes. So Silver Sight aired as a movie at least once, maybe twice, but there's really no space for it to fit more than that time. It was more valuable as half-hour episodes than it was a 90-minute thing going forward to today, frankly. So I delivered. That's why it's Silver Sight 1, 2, and 3. So that was the first thing. It's like I'm gonna make a movie. This is gonna be the Are You Afraid of the Dark movie. So that was the first kind of organizing principle. Then it's like, okay, so what story is worth an hour? I don't know. And I thought, being the showrunner again, I made the rules. I did, and I held everyone to the rules. This is what Are You Afraid of the Dark is. And in doing Silver Sight, I went against the cardinal rule. I went against the essence of Are You Afraid of the Dark? When Ned and I first sold the show, and Nickelodeon is so afraid that you can't scare kids. Like, no, it doesn't matter how scared it is.
Yeah.
It's about kids sitting around the campfire who made up these stories.
Mhm.
And no matter how scary the story is that we see, we always come back at the end and say, oh, it was just made up, so everything is fine. So I'll take that edge off of, yeah, what the heck just happened? Those Midnight Society kids, for 87 stories, did not exist in a world where scary things actually happened until Silver Sight. So I really went against my prime directive, to use
Yeah.
Star Trek term.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to live long and prosper much longer on that show, so I could get away with it. I don't remember if it bothered me that much at the time. I was like, oh, screw it, that's fine. But I also wanted to give back a little bit too, because the Midnight Society became something much more important than I ever expected it to be.
The Midnight Society is about to learn the difference between telling a scary story
Why don't you tell us everything?
All right, here it is.
and living one.
Man, I'm not liking this.
I really didn't. I mean, to me, they were the hosts. They introduced the episodes. At the end, they were the wraparounds, and they were the easiest part of the show to do. Frankly, it's the same freaking set. We shoot 2 a day. I wrote all the Midnight Society scenes. Except a couple in the beginning I didn't, but I wrote them all. It's easier for me to write them to have another writer out. And it was so easy. And they became the face of the show. And so I was like, why don't I just give them the spotlight for a change? Why don't I make the story? My swan song will be the story is we're going to take the Midnight Society out of the campfire and have them go on a scary adventure themselves. So it went against the prime directive, but at this point,
Technically, at the end, it's revealed that Jean in the past is now telling this story. So it's kind of like a metafiction story within a story within a story.
Yeah, are they two separate Silver Sight stories? Do they count as separate stories? Because at the beginning, Gary opens it up like a story, right? They give it a title, and then at the very end, the original OG Midnight Society is as if they're telling the story. So it's almost like two Silver Sight stories happening at the same time.
that's a good question, because as I rewatched it this morning for the first time in 25 years, and that scene came up, which I really loved, seeing the thing. I'm kind of like, what was I thinking? What was the what was the
Grandma
intent
Jean
behind that
predicted the
happening?
future.
Yeah, did it really happen? There were a number of things in the show I watched that I'm like, what
was I thinking? I
What
was
was I
thinking
thinking about
something that week.
but I kind of liked it. I mean, maybe you didn't have the answer, because I sure didn't. Or I sure don't.
Yeah. My interpretation was that like it was as if the ghost of all of the original Midnight Society, or like the spirits of them, they could like now lay at rest, even though it's more metaphorical because most of them are still alive. But it's almost like they're all connecting in this like spiritual way of like being released from this thing, and it's kind of more symbolic. That's how I saw it. But yeah,
I like that. That's good. I was thinking, again, I'm speculating myself. I'm thinking maybe, who knows if the story they just told was the exact story we saw,
Oh, true.
because stuff happened to them.
Yeah, with the Silver
Thing.
Sight. Yeah, they experienced it.
So, but I kind of like endings like that. That it was just kind of like, well, you ask the kind of questions you're asking right now.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, makes you think.
Um,
It's awesome.
That means Gene said a lot of bad stuff about his friends. Like, you're going to be a traitor, and then you're going to cheat with this other guy. And
yeah, because it really felt like they really didn't know yet what all that, or the specifics of that were going to happen. So maybe I don't know. I really don't know. It was one of those stories that I kind of like, maybe this doesn't stand up to really, really sharp scrutiny. Any of it for that matter. But what
It's
the heck? Are
fun.
they gonna fire me?
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you said this was your swan song. This aired as the season 7 premiere, back to back to back. Was this production order, was it last to be filmed then?
No, no, it was the last one that I was going to write. It was it aired first, I believe, just because it was a special. It was a movie, so it was a way to introduce the new season. To say, here, the season, we're going to show a movie of Are You Afraid of the Dark, not just 3 episodes.
Halloween arrives early, turning the Niccolo zone into the dark zone with the tale of the Silver Sight, a brand new 3-part Are You Afraid of the Dark special.
And I'm sure it was shown more than once.
Watch again the tale of the Silver Sight.
Back when we did season 6 and 7, I wasn't in Montreal much at all for the shooting. The fellow who Paul Doyle is his name, who was our editor in the first 65, he got the bump up to kind of run the production in Montreal. So in season 6 and 7, I did everything up to getting scripts, doing everything I always did in the past, working with other writers, getting all set to go, and then handing over to Paul. He would handle the actual production of it, and then I'd step back in once we got to post production again. So with the music and the editing and all that kind of stuff. So I have zero memory of the production of Silver Sight or any of the shows in 6 and 7 for that matter. Though I do have one very distinct memory of 6 and 7 because I was there to kick it off, season 6 with Midnight Society, and I took them all out bowling one night.
Yeah, perfect. As usual.
The Bowling Society.
The Midnight Bowling Society. And I woke up the next morning with with a bad back. I've had a bad back ever since.
Oh no.
I was cursed by the Midnight Society. I'm going bowling before the Silver Sight.
Disrupt their families? Get her, lover! Blue legless dog ball!
That was the impetus behind it, but there wasn't a story yet. That's why I say it was kind of reverse engineered, because I knew I wanted it to be a movie. I knew I wanted to have the Midnight Society be the characters to it, in it, playing themselves, so to speak. I also thought it would be a great idea to bring Ross Hull back to be in. So before even writing it, I contacted Ross to say, so you might want to come back and
Would it be Gary again?
Gary again? And he's like, okay.
Hey, how about letting an old timer sit in tonight?
So if he hadn't said yes, I would not have written that story, which really revolved around Gary too. So that was a big part of that. The other reason I say it's self-indulgent to have made that movie the way it was is that it had so many elements of things that I love. I'm not a big boogeyman guy. I like threats and spooky and all that kind of stuff, but I love mysteries and I love puzzles. And that movie was a mystery inside a puzzle wrapped around another mystery. There's so many levels of stuff going on. And I love writing mysteries, and I love giving enough clues that you might be able to play along with.
Yes, the interactive ability to play. Yes, that's so fun. And I love that about it. Like the feeding the clues early on, one at a time, with the messages, like allowing the audience to try to, it felt like kind of Nancy Drew Hardy Boys. And I love Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. I love Shelby Woo. It's one of my biggest favorite shows on Nickelodeon alongside Are You Afraid of the Dark? So the mystery element, being able to take the clues and interact is awesome. It's like it adds to the, like you were saying, you're trying to give this gravitas to this being the very end, and it's like it's a mystery that you can play along with now, and it's like you're part of the Midnight Society almost trying to solve it. It was awesome. I thought it was so cool and clever.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I even went so far as to, at least in this, because there are multiple storylines going through, which is another thing. But I held off the kids going to the amusement park until the latter end, because I didn't want to introduce the concept of an amusement park too early. Because when you're writing mysteries, it's always like, how much do you give away? How much do you give? Is it too much? Is it too? So I was just afraid if the amusement park comes in too soon, maybe the clues will be put together a little bit too soon.
You bring up the theme park, and one of the things that I love is that the sets for this one, there was like a huge range of like these big sets for each part, and like the underground sewers set to like the theme park to the junkyard. It's the general's armory or whatever it's supposed to be called with all this stuff. It's his mansion of a million suits of armor. He really likes the military, even going back a long ways.
He must have been king of the Wicker people.
But yeah, it's just so cool. Each of those sets is like in themselves like an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode on its own.
Well, that's the other self-indulgent thing too. It's like I came up with these weird environments, especially the one down in the sewer with the tycoon. It was so much fun to write stuff like that. It was so odd. They're like, who are these people? What? They're just nut burgers, you know?
Would you care to join us?
Please.
The actors playing Midnight Society, they're used to sitting around the campfire in a small-ish circle, and now they get to run around these massive sets. So that's probably
It
pretty
was
cool.
so, and the other puzzle aspect of it, and unfortunately, it doesn't, I don't think it works as well when you see them as separate episodes. That's another thing about making a 3-part thing for syndication that it's going to happen sometime in the future is you can't guarantee they're going to be shown in the right order. You know, they just kind of around all the time. So the only way to truly appreciate the structure of the Silver Sight is to really see it all in one solid thing, because they're what those kids are doing, they're all doing it simultaneously. You know, they're all investigating these things as it goes on. So it's really fun. Self-indulgent part is to do it's like, I mean, it's been done in films before, but the idea is that you see one scene that makes no sense. And so you see it again later on. And then you see it again later on. You're seeing other parts of the story, but you're always going back to the beginning. So it's another part of the puzzle that slowly gets put together. And each time you see the next scene, you're like, oh, that's why. Oh, and every time you see it, you see a little bit more. So it was so much fun writing that, the self-indulgent part.
Yeah, the small details were so much fun in all three of these parts. I mean, even which I'll address that what you were just talking about in a sec. But when they were in the sewer, and Peggy, who was Emily Van Camp, by the way, everybody, but I don't think she really had anything to say. But her just sitting at the table and just kept putting sugar in her drink and putting the whole thing in there. She didn't have to do that, but that was a small thing that was added, and it said a lot to her character, and just with nothing to say, which was really fun.
I don't think I can take credit for that one. I think the director might have done that.
Oh, it was fun. It
But
was
it's
so
great.
fun.
Yeah.
I like when she's looking back and forth between her parents too, and she's like, "Huh?" She's like watching a tennis match, and she's like, "Huh?"
Well, it really struck me when the first time you see her briefly, when Megan sees her briefly, it's almost like, wow, this really has an Alice in Wonderland vibe going on here.
Yeah, it almost feels, it's very bizarre and surreal. Exactly. Yeah.
It's a stinky
think-
rabbit hole.
She even says that she's through the looking glass, right? Doesn't she make that reference? Yeah.
When did I step through the looking glass?
But yeah, there's definitely like a Rashomon vibe with all three of these episodes, which we talked about before in one of our previous episodes, where there's
You're
a story
welcome.
that's taking fold. Yes, thank you. There's a story that's taking place, but you see it from different points of view. But I really thought that was a nice touch for this 3-part series, because at first it was just we're following Tucker and Gary, and it's just them. But then whenever they regroup later, we're familiar with what they've gone through, but now other Midnight Society members are coming in and commenting because she smells.
Oh, you stink.
We don't know why she smells. And then another character is rushing in and, oh, I need this thing. Bye. And we don't know what that's about. But the next episode, we follow them. And then it cuts to, oh, this is why they were smelling. This is why he needs that thing. But there's another set of Midnight Society members that are having to do something, and we don't know what they're going through. And then part 3 would be that. So it was such a clever way to tie all those three together. So it's not just A, B, B, C,
Linear
C,
story.
D.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
non-linear story
Yeah,
structure
exactly.
provides more mystery and intrigue and also like points of reference to keep the audience back. Yeah.
It really is funny. Me watching it, where there's so much that I don't remember, and so I'm going to be complimenting myself here.
Go for it.
But I had a reaction to it because it's like, oh, that was really good.
You go,
Where,
DJ.
because the fulcrum or the hub of it was Gary's dorm room, where they all kept gathering back together as they're going on their different assignments, and that was the scene kept growing and growing. And then the running gag is that Megan smells, or I just smell so much, and she just subtly she takes out her little atomizer perfume or whatever it is to spray to kind of kill the smell, and then she does it again, and then when the third time Quinn comes in and goes, what is that smell? It's like, oh, Megan's been in the sewer. He goes, no, it smells like bad perfume.
Whoa, what's with that smell?
Megan's been in the sewer.
Nah, smells more like bad perfume.
I thought there's no way that's gonna hide that smell. It's gonna smell even worse now. It's
worse.
like a cherry air freshener in a New York taxi cab. It's not gonna do anything.
Like a skunk going on a hot date.
Now he just smells like a skunk who's getting ready for a hot date.
The tree that hangs on the
Yeah.
But I thought, wow, that was pretty clever. Who wrote that? Oh, I did. And just, you notice that I mean, where they went to find the silver site was at Playland, which is from Zebo. From
Zebo.
Yeah.
The same
There are a couple Easter eggs in there too. I like the funhouse mirrors and the knights in armor coming to life, like in the Bookish Babysitter.
Yeah, or like Pinball Wizard. Yeah.
And even in the around the campfire, they referred, when Gary's telling the story, they referred to this magic shop where they got it. Dave's like, "Well, like the Magic Mansion."
Like the Magic Mansion.
And one other funny thing, again, this for me, this was one of those things that, you hold on to stuff for a long time thinking someday I'm going to look at this and it's going to bring back really nostalgic memories. And so for me to watch this, pretty much every adult actor in that Silver Site was in many of our shows. It was like a best of who's who. They all came back together for one last hurrah. So that was, I really loved that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You were going down through the notes here without us having to say anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm applauding myself here.
Well, I watched it pretty much the way you watched it too. I'm sure you're like, let me try to look at this objectively here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, does this mean that Grandma Aggie inspired a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark Tale characters? Like, is that what it comes down to? Sheena Larkin has been in several episodes.
Oh, she probably may be the adult who's in more episodes. And the weird was she looked younger in this episode than she looked in any other.
Yeah,
she did.
It's like, is there a Dorian Gray thing going on here? What the heck? Right. Another kind of fun, this is the indulgent part too, is that every character in that episode was named after a relative of mine.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
A grandparent, uncle, a cousin, an in-law, the locations or places that I lived. So it's like, it was the best of my life. Not exactly, but in that show where every name, it's like, oh, I did that too. It's like, oh my God.
That's awesome. I was curious because you're talking about how so much of your life gets inspired into it with your writing, especially with this being like the big, like last big story of the Are You Afraid of the Dark series. Was there like any thoughts of like your childhood trying to like add that into like trying to tell the story of like where the Midnight Society is living? Like was there a junkyard in the town that you lived in that you frequented, or a theme park that kind of drove these, or were they more just like cool set pieces that you thought?
It was cool set pieces. I mean, the theme, yeah. I mean, like Playland, there really is a Playland.
And welcome to Playland!
But other than that, I don't, and I grew up in a town, it was all kind of richy. Not that I was, I grew up on the other side of the track. So to have those kind of people coming in and playing tennis underground and just being so clueless, I grew up with some of those people. But then not necessarily. I mean, that's kind of what I'm referring to is the reverse engineering thing, was if the organizing principles were a movie with the Midnight Society, make it a mystery to justify multiple characters doing different things, and then doing that Rashomon kind of thing where we come together, that's pretty much where I started. So I had a reverse engineer come up with a story, which was kind of frankly, it was, I don't even know what the Silver Site was. It was kind of like a monkey's paw kind of thing. It was like a Twisted Claw kind of thing where it's this thing that if you want something, you'll get it, but horrible things are going to happen. So it's kind of like the next step Twisted Claw story where things horribly wrong.
Hey, where it starts, where it ends, you know.
Yeah. First episode and towards the end of the last episode, or the first of the last season. So I really kind of had to reverse engineer, come up with a story to justify all those elements. I will say, oh, now that I think of it, the idea that there's a record that the guy recorded the thing and then they broke it up. I have a record at Playland when I was yay big. They used to have these things. God, I'm old. Oh they used to have these things where you go into a booth and probably spend 10 cents. That's how cheap it was to record your voice, and they spit out a little, like a 78 record. The little hole, it wasn't the big 45, the little. And I have a record someplace of me singing Wally the Green-Nosed Tuna.
I love it.
Patty, you the ketchup on my fries. Patty, you the ice in my Patty, you the mustard on my which.
Sung to the tune of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Wally the Green-Nosed Tuna. And so that was kind of a thing of childhood, of going into a booth like that in an amusement park. So here the guy McGorrell did the record. He probably did it at the amusement park, and so that was something out of my background.
No, that's awesome. Now I can't help but think of like an edit of Gary and all them putting the record together and it playing the Green-Nosed Tuna song.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe
all of this work for that.
As far as I know, I'm the only one.
They get Rick rolled.
Yeah, it's just Rick Astley.
Did you ever hear of Wally the Green-Nosed Tuna? I mean, I think I'm the only person in the world who ever heard that song.
I had not heard that till today. No.
But now I want you to sing it.
Yeah, enlighten us.
Well, I won't sing it, but I'll give you the lyrics. Wally the Green-Nosed Tuna it was basically Rudolph, had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it close. All the other tuna used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Wally play in any tuna games. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, "Wally, with your nose so green, won't you guide my submarine?" Then all the tuna loved him as they shouted out with glee, "Wally the Green-Nosed Tuna, you'll go down the cannery."
Oh no.
Oh, I was waiting for the twist at the end.
God knows where that came from.
That's funny. Oh man, that's awesome.
Hopefully that's probably copyrighted someplace.
Yeah, we got stroke.
Good thing
we got a content strike.
Content strike. No.
You had to pay a fee if I sang it just then.
No, spoken word poetry.
Right, I'm like William Shatner.
Yeah, like a Rocket Man. Yes.
Oh no.
You just need the cigarette.
I gotta tell you, DJ, we had a get together. The crew actually met, most of it outside of Jordan. He's the only one that couldn't make it, but we went to Pennsylvania, and many of them are in Pennsylvania. Megan and my wife and I, we went to Pennsylvania. We got to go to Kennywood, so the whole crew got to go to a theme park in Kennywood. And we rode a carousel, and the entire time we were riding the carousel, we were joking about, "Oh, it's the Silver Sight. Which one of these horses has the?" And of course, all these other kids are looking at us like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah,
But there was this other character. It was this animatronic.
No. Oh no.
And it was in this box, and it was this woman who was just laughing, and
Laughing
her
Sal type thing?
Laughing Sal. And it was creepy. Laughing Sal. It was super creepy. And Kat was looking at it, go, "That's more terrifying than Zebo." What do you not like?
I hate it.
You hate what?
The tail of the laughing in the dark.
What's wrong with Laughing Sal?
The tail is laughing in the dark. That's what's wrong with it.
DJ MacHale, we need a new story about her.
She was just kind of like, that's all it was.
She's got her hands
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Like
They have one in
having some
Santa
kind of
Cruz
seizure
as well at the
laughing.
boardwalk. Yeah, it's like
Oh,
this.
that's not
That's
right.
creepy as you could get. Yeah, yeah.
There's
Is
a
that-
Zoltar right next to her.
I was gonna say there was a
was there a
Zoltar.
Zoltar?
Yeah.
Zoltar, is she gonna kill me?
Well,
Yes.
at I did say this Playland place. It did have a laughing. Well, it's called Laugh in the Dark actually, but I call it Laughing in the Dark. It's at that amusement park that they shot those scenes from Big.
Oh, okay.
So the Zoltar thing at the end was that was the Playland that
Wow.
yeah,
That's awesome.
It's a story and song. It's all over the place. Wait, but this lady's just laughing. There's no payoff. There's no.
No. She just laughs forever. That's never
Yeah.
stops laughing.
It's just a creepy puppet.
I think she was like one of the first animatronics popularized too. She's old.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if the one you guys have is as old, but we had one in Santa Cruz at the boardwalk. It's like the old. I think it might be the oldest one, but yeah, it's in Lost Boys. If you're a fan of Lost Boys, she's featured in that. I think she might be in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Pretty much anything that shows the Santa Cruz Beach boardwalk.
Zoltar is or Laughing Sal?
Laughing Sal is. Yeah.
I was just going to ask where the amusement park scenes were filmed. Was that La Ronde in Montreal? Okay.
Which is where Laughing in the Dark was shot.
Mm-hmm.
But it looked kind of in the day. It looked kind of like this is like Eastern European behind the Iron Curtain amusement park.
The overcast doesn't help. Yeah.
Well, and then you had the waif kid inside the Zoltar booth, and that was a whole other effect.
It's really hard to have somebody like stay still when she's like
yeah,
lips quivering.
but that was obviously, as you pointed out, that was a Laughing in the Dark throwback too.
So this next question I'm going to ask is one that you have answered numerous times, but every single time we do these episodes, there's always somebody new. So I apologize for how the repeat question, but because of the nature of this episode or this 3-part series / movie actually is interwoven with the Midnight Society. And then when they did the Are You Afraid of the Dark reboot series with the carnival, and that very much is targeted at the Midnight Society, inevitably someone is probably going to have the question if you had a hand in the reboot series, which again you've answered before, but did you have a hand in the reboot series?
If you liked the reboot series, you're welcome, because Ned and I created the show, so you're welcome. If you didn't like it, we had nothing to do with the actual production of it. Had nothing to do with it.
Yep.
Don't blame us.
But it did very much have a lot of ties. This one and then the Curse of Shadow, the Carnival one and the Curse of Shadow had a lot of ties and would throw some homages to the original series, which was nice. But I did like the idea of the Midnight Society being the forefront for the tale, at least for the first reboot series. But I really loved even more, and I don't say that because you're here. I say it because it's true. I loved how it was interwoven within the series already, because we have these already clearly established characters, and the way you completely subverted expectations by when it came time to tell the tale, and he threw the dust into it. The fire just went completely out.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. I call this story... Whoa.
That was such a, that was a audible gasp from me. That was like, ooh!
Yeah. That's not good.
That's
was
not
not expecting that. That was such a good touch.
That's kind of not normal.
What was Quinn's line? It's like,
that's kind of not normal.
Well, that's kind of what was fun about writing it, is knowing all the standard things, the rhythm and whatnot, and to be able to play with that a little bit.
Yeah, and subvert on it, exactly.
And so it gets twisted a little bit, and just the fact that again, I was, when I watched it, I'm watching as much as a fan as I was. I wrote this thing because I really did forget about most of it. But as they're leaving, and by the way, talk about not following the rules. They start to leave that campfire.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's where it first starts to get to me. Is like, why are you just gonna leave the fire going? You have a rule to put the fire.
Smokey the Bear's gonna come after you
just for that scene, though, so that it can.
It was only because of what was then to follow that they had to do that. But as I'm watching it this morning, I'm thinking, Oh, that should have been
That would have been bad.
a different way. That should have been, they should not have been leaving. They should have been starting to stand up and then say, well, we got to do it. But on the positive side, I really like that um Andy's his character. I was gonna say David. David's his real name. That Andy says, wait a minute, we have to have a title.
The story needs a title.
And then there's the twist and the play on that, how it came out and how the little demon kid comes out at the end and starts the fire. But even the opening, I'm such a sucker for this stuff. And it was written this way, and the director did it perfectly, where it opens up the way shows open up. Every episode opens up where you're walking through the woods and it's Gary. It's like, oh, it's a reveal. It's like, oh my God, Gary's back. And even Gary's like, wow, I haven't been here in a while. This is different. Things have changed. They have the furniture there and whatnot. And then it turns out it was a dream. So it's like, it was a lot of stuff like that it was playing with the conventions of the show and then putting it out to your ear a little bit. So the whole thing was just a little bit disconcerting if you were used to watching the show, hopefully in a good way.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, it totally pays off. All of those little subversions and changes. I mean, yeah, if you're it works really well standalone if you just watch it, but it also works even better if you've watched the entire show, right? Because there's all those little payoffs.
And even at the end, it was, I mean, the climax happens. It's a real tearjerker when Grandpa Gene shows up at the end. I'd forgotten about that. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
how cool is that? and then the end of the campfire, and then the surprise when you pull back, it's like, oh my God, it's the old Midnight Society. I was like, man, I did a good job on this script. This was pretty good.
That's
one of my favorite parts. Yeah,
I love that moment. Whenever you've done something, but you've put it away for so many years, you go back and revisit, and I did a good job with this thing. I'm really proud of this. It's
with all the weight and pressure on your shoulders of the time, you can finally just enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, we saying before we started recording that in some ways it's very much like we're talking about Superman and about how it's a pretty good movie, but if you're a fan, you really like it because it plays with conventions and it changes the conventions and whatnot. So the Silver Sight, in of itself, it's a good story. It's an interesting story about these kids that have to. But if you never watched Are You Afraid of the Dark, it's probably okay. But if you did know Are You Afraid of the Dark, you could appreciate it on a different level because of all those things we're talking about, all the twisting on conventions and whatnot. Then it's fan service.
Yeah.
For fans to appreciate.
Yeah.
So I hope it operated on that. And I didn't even think of that analogy until this second.
So we can kind of assume what some of the original Midnight Society members used the Silver Sight for, where the good investments in the stock market and then their luck took a turn, or but what do we think Grandpa Gene used it for? If it's revealed every Midnight Society member used it, what did he use it for?
Yeah, I don't think I ever came up with one because he was such a good guy. He's like the guy that everybody, he's the one that
he used it on anybody who almost found the Midnight Society hangout. Just to keep it a secret.
Everyone that told a bad story got
buried. Yeah, right. You got rid of Eric.
Oh yeah, poor Eric.
That's what happened to him.
Would that be the ultimate meta kind of fan service thing at the end? It's like, finally, we know what happened to Eric. He was on that carousel and he's gone. Oh, that's awesome. If I had thought of that at the time, I may have worked that in someplace just as a nudge and a wink. Everybody always wondered what happened to Eric. So I don't know, Gene, I don't know. In fact, I even, now I'll criticize it. I don't know, I'm not so sure if the logic held 100% on that story because it's so dense. I mean, and dense in a deep way. There's so much going on. And I know that usually I'm so anal about making sure that everything tracks and it makes sense to the extent that it can. But I'm not sure if it tracked that. Said the guy that hid the Silver Sight died the day after, or was killed the day after. It's like, and that was
it was Bruce McGorrell. Yeah.
So that meant he did it as an adult because he owned the amusement park at that point. But did he own the amusement park at that point? I don't remember what my logic was at the time that I wrote it. but there's so much going on that you try not to analyze it too deeply, as I do. I love watching movies that are mysteries like that, and I try to put the clues together, whatever happens.
Yeah.
In the same way.
Yeah, I love Hercule Poirot for that exact reason. I love
Yeah,
watching those.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're giving you all the clues that you need. Now, it's up to you to pick ones which aren't misdirections and which ones are real clues, but that's part of the fun, which is why I am the only person in this world that can't stand that movie, The Usual Suspects.
Oh.
One of the most famous twists of all time, and it was an awesome twist. Don't get me wrong. I was as surprised as the next person, and no surprise that I was surprised, because I went from surprised to pissed off.
Yeah, like where was this is undeserved.
All this thought process that I went through for the last 2 hours of trying to say he did this to them, that's why he did that. It's like, nope, none of that mattered. It was all a dream. I mean, it wasn't a dream, but so,
yeah, same effect.
I had my wife she did And Then There Were None several years ago in our local theater, and I knew I do community theater, so I knew all the actors, but I had never seen the play. I had never read the book. I had never seen any of the adaptations, so this was all new to me. And I was with a friend of mine, and it got to intermission, and they were asked, the conversation always starts, well, who do you think it is? And we start looking at all the clues, and I wasn't looking at the clues. I was looking at, okay, how's the second half of this going to play out? Who would be the most interesting two to keep at the end, and what would be the most exciting ending? And I said, well, I think this person's going to die, this person's going to die, it's going to come down to these two. One of them is going to die, but it's not going to be the killer. I think it's going to be this guy that's going to be the killer, because no one is going to suspect this guy. And I was right the entire time. I texted my wife texted me from backstage, so who do you think it is? And I tell Spencer, who is the actor, tell Spencer he's doing a great job killing everybody. And then she starts to message me back saying, oh no, it's not Spencer. And she's backstage telling everyone, crap, he's figured it out. And I was the only person the entire weekend who figured it out. And it was much like you were just reverse engineering how's the ending going to play. But
well, that's one of the things, as a writer, that's one of the things you have to factor in when you're writing something like that, because you're not just writing a mystery, a story in a vacuum. You're not just you to an audience or a reader that it's totally a blank slate cold. You're also competing with everything in past stories that person has seen. They've seen every convention, they've seen every twist, they've seen well, it can't be that one because that's this. I mean, we've all seen a million stories of that. You're competing with that. So you're having to outthink not only your audience, you're having to outthink all those other stories that
all the other greats. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's really hard.
Yeah.
And if you pull it off, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
Then if you as a viewer or reader just say, wow, this is the goal. To say, wow, I did not see that coming. But as I think back, it makes total sense. That's the gold standard.
Have you read or seen Something Wicked This Way Comes?
Oh God, so long ago. Where it's like the devil guy's the devil who
something like that. There was a lot of all of you Slimesters who are listening and watching, I would say watch, if you've not seen these 3 episodes, check them out. They're great. And then go back and watch Something Wicked This Way Comes. 2 different stories, but there's a lot of tie-in that's very similar too, because it was a carnival that they were called the Dark. It was the dark people or the night people. But Jonathan Pryce was the main villain. He was Mr. Dark, and he had this carnival that would come into town and would feed off of older people's regrets. So it was like an athlete who had a car accident, lost his leg, and man, I wish I could do this, all kinds of stuff again. So he would get on a carnival and it would reverse time. And now he was a young kid again and he could do all these things. But then something happened and he couldn't move. He was completely paralyzed. So he had his young body, but he couldn't do anything with it. There was a woman who she's a school teacher now, but she's old and she's not good looking. And people would say, "Oh man, she was the most beautiful thing." She got on the carousel, reverse time, and she was young and gorgeous again. But then she went blind and couldn't see her real good looks anymore. So it was filled with that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of really good uh, taking what people wanted, be careful what you wish for, sort of thing, but all within the carnival setting, and some of that some of that was a little with the silver sight. You just make a wish and you could have this thing, but I wanted to have this woman, the most beautiful woman you've ever seen, and then she was in a car accident and she died. I had this great wealth and I wanted wealth, and then something happened and now I had to revert to the sewers, and there was some elements of that, but enough to make it its own thing, which again, like you were saying, it's hard to come up with original stories, but it's cool to I like to piece pop culture together. If you take a little bit of this, a little bit of this, you get this.
I totally agree. Yeah, I see the same thing. I felt the same way, like with that, but with it, like the story It from Stephen King, like with the particularly when they were younger, right? But also with the older at parts of it, with the older generation of the Midnight Society, where they're coming together, they branch off, they all have their own experiences with Pennywise, right? Almost like with the Midnight Society all branching off to find their own piece of the record and having their own calamity come their way in pursuit of trying to do that. So I definitely feel the same way Alex does, where like I take pop culture and I try to be like, this feels kind of like that. I like looking at it through those lenses. Not saying that anything was taken from anything, obviously. It's just kind of like those cool ideas.
Everything inspires and informs other pieces of
very
literature and art, and
there are things that I've come up with that when I came up with them, I think this is the most original thing that has ever been done. I've never seen this before. And then 10 years later, either I'll remember or I'll see something. I'm like, oh my God, is that where I got that from? There's I made a movie called Tower of Terror.
Of course. It's one of my favorites. The ride was great too.
It was the opening of that movie was like a 4-minute big dance party,
like time period kind of. Yep, exactly.
And there's all sorts of stuff going on with the swing music and all that kind of stuff, and it's one of the best parts of the movie, frankly. And it wasn't until a couple years ago, I guess, and I don't know why it sparked in my memory, or I saw something, I'm like, oh my God, there was a comedy team. They were kind of like a next level down, Abbott and Costello back in the 40s, called Olsen and Johnson. And they made a movie called, I think it was Ghost Chasers or Ghost Bust. It wasn't Ghostbusters, I think it was Ghost Chasers. And it was an Abbott and Costello spooky kind of thing where there were ghosts and whatnot. And there was a sequence in that movie where they're trying to oust the ghost from this big mansion. And this big haunted mansion is right next door to a nightclub, which is as those things are all the time.
Right.
Naturally. There's a nightclub right next to the antebellum old house. But they brought over all these dancers and musicians to populate the house, and they did this whole swing dance number with quick cutting and whatnot. I'm like, oh my God. Now it's a whole different story and a whole different thing, but I'm like, somewhere that seed was in my subconscious or unconscious that made me create that sequence. And it's like, so you never know what inspires something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of art, is that art is an iterative process across generations and creators, where it inspires, it fuels, even if it's in the back of the recesses of your mind. This is where stories come from. So yeah, I love that. I love that.
I've been watching that Billy Joel documentary about the history of Billy Joel, and he is really quick to point out his inspiration for so many of his songs. He'll say, well, this song, that came from that song, and this song came from that song, and this I was trying to do this song and that song. So it's not, and that's okay.
That's the whole point, taking inspiration. That's why you write the stories, so people can enjoy them and go on and write their own.
Going back to Silver Sight, there was one small touch that I really really liked. I don't know if it was a script thing or if it was a director's choice, but it was a good touch and I liked it because everyone's collecting the records, the pieces of the record, and I'm thinking, by the time you get that together, you're not going to be able to hear a thing on that. There's no way that's going to. Please don't tell me that when they play that, it's going to sound super smooth because there's going to be skips and jumps and all that stuff. Nope, it did not play smoothly.
Yeah, it even skips over the cracks and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
great
oh,
sound
thank
design.
you.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, it means you're working together, and that's good. I hope I'm with you.
Well, that came back to me again. In post, I'm involved again. But for that very reason, it's like, believe me, it still sounded better than my Wally the Green-Nosed Tuna record. and that record wasn't in pieces. But it's as old. So, but then there was that balance between, okay, we have to make it sound realistic because it's an old thing that they somehow super glued together. I don't know. They did it. We skipped over that. It's like, how did you do that? But you also had to understand what he was saying too. So it probably wasn't as realistic as it might have been, but it was enough that
the effort's appreciated because it's right at that edge of like, you need to be able to, it needs to be legible, like you're saying, right? But it also needs to sell that this is something that is a pieced together record. It's not a fresh pressed golden record.
And there's so many things like that as long as a writer, director, whatever it is, at least acknowledges that what's happening, it may not be that realistic, but they at least acknowledge it. And I will go back again and reference Superman. Cat, it's a very small spoiler alert. It's not
okay.
You haven't seen it.
Spoiler warning.
I mean, one of the things for all of history that is a criticism of Superman, it's like, really? You didn't think that Clark Kent looked like Superman?
Yeah.
You never put the two together, that they look together. And James Gunn acknowledged that. It's his glasses were hypnotic. And when you put the glasses on, it hypnotized people to not recognize him. So it was just a line. That's it.
And it's easy and it's simple, right? It's
one
line.
Silly and it's not practical and it wouldn't happen in real life, nor with Superman.
So are flying men with their underwear.
But at least you acknowledge, okay, this is wacky. I'm at least giving an explanation. So that's why all I should have done in the first episode of season 2 is have somebody come to the Midnight Society and say, Eric got hit by a bus.
Poor Eric.
It would have been.
Oh my God.
I never would have had to answer that question for the rest of my life.
Eric moved. All right, moving on.
Yeah, there you go.
So you appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to ask you to swallow something here, but I'm at least going to acknowledge that I'm asking you to swallow something here. So you add the hisses and the pops and whatnot. It's like, okay, they probably couldn't even glue it back together, but at least they acknowledge that it's not an easy thing to do. So that's I'm glad you appreciated that.
I did.
It's
nice
great.
Touch.
It's like the adding the sugar thing. These little details throughout it sells the universe. It sells the world as more real. It and you can tell it's like a directing action from the audience to the writer, where it's like, you feel like you're looking at each other almost. Where you're like, okay, that I'm paying enough attention to care enough that would be wrong, and you've done something about it ahead of time. I love that. I appreciate when all writers try to attempt to do that.
It's the fun part of filmmaking too, is to add those little things to say, oh, right, and maybe 8 or 9 times out of 10, no one's going to even think about it. But somehow you did think about it, Alex, and it's like, okay, that acknowledges that. It's like, okay, that was a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, like, you never wrote down to the audience. You always assumed that the kids were smart, and they were smart. Like, I like to think we were smart. But yeah, you didn't need to spoon feed us stuff.
Yeah, we didn't need to see them put the record together.
Yeah.
We knew they glued it together somehow.
Yeah.
I always say it like with my books. People would say, when did he go to the bathroom? It wasn't in real time.
Why aren't they eating in this movie?
Thing that happens.
Well, you get fan mail that asks that?
I did. Okay. I had I'm a huge, and I told you this, DJ, I'm a huge James Bond fan, but I just had the idea one day, what if James Bond was on a mission and then had to use the restroom really bad, and it's like, it's an emergency, and I made a goofy home video of that sort of thing, but I know they're not going to put those kinds of things in the stories.
Do
Who
you want to
cares
see
about
this?
that?
But
That's a Saturday Night Live sketch. I mean,
Yes.
that's what that's for.
Well, I mean, it's kind of also speaking to trying, you have to acknowledge to the audience that you have to acknowledge when something is a little bit weird, but you also have to assume that the audience or the reader or whatever is they're filling in the blanks. You don't need to, especially if it's not moving the story forward. It's like you had to go to the bathroom, trust me.
Yeah.
There were
At
moments.
some point, it's not important, but he went.
Yeah.
Suspend your disbelief for 1 second.
Yeah.
He didn't go to the bathroom.
I mean, that's an extreme one, but I believe that. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about not everyone, but and I'm one of these people that people look at these things critically. You know, they're looking for. There's a guy that does an Are You Afraid of the Dark podcast that I just want to like, oh my God. And he's doing it for laughs. So I get it. So, but it's just like, oh my God, you're attributing the logic stick to every little moment of every little thing. And it's like, just go with it. Just have some fun with it.
It's a real cinema sins moment where you're just
But-
trying to
but
find every little
using it for
problem.
ways to make fun. So I
Yeah.
get that.
It's a
Just like
concept type.
Oh, please. But and if you think too hard about that stuff, you'd be paralyzed. I mean, when you're making, because you're trying to think of every little nuance of someone's going to second guess and see through something, whatnot, and you can't do it. So, and even as I said, as I'm watching Silver Sight, I'm kind of like, wait, how did he get that? You know, how did he know how did she know to look into the wall of the well she went down? All it said was the things in the well. And as I'm watching it, I don't know if you remember, but they had that drawing of the well. And it's like, why didn't I just put a little X marks the spot?
Yeah, right.
So she would know enough that, oh, I got to go down there in order to look around in the inside there. They didn't do that. So it's like, that was this morning. I'm like, why didn't I just have that? I just could have put a little mark, the little X there to say, this is where to look, as opposed to she somehow knew. I should look in the walls to find the thing. You can make yourself crazy. You just got to go with it.
I didn't think that at all.
It was because most people won't.
I just assume they're clever, right? But I mean, definitely as the writer, you have the biggest burden of what's the audience.
It's my work, so I'm the one that's going to be the most critical.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Take that, podcaster. You will never be as critical of DJ's work as DJ.
Yes. Oh, that's absolutely. Oh, and that was what I would always say. It's like I think one of the reasons I didn't get many notes from Nickelodeon and the whole series as a whole is that I was the most critical of anyone. If believe me, if there was something to criticize, I was criticizing it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys are like me, but when you're making something, whatever that thing is, or doing a task, whatever that is, when something is going well or right, you forget about it. It's like what you focus on are the things that aren't going well.
Yeah, all the problems you have to fix.
That's what gets your attention. And I always feel bad when I'm giving someone notes on a script or a book or something like that. Usually the first paragraph is, oh, this is really good. I like this. I like this. Now, let me go
bring the pleasantries out of the way.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to give you a 4-page thing praising what it is. That's accepted. It's supposed to be good. But let's work on the things that don't do it. So I saw that thing. I was like, why didn't I make a little X on the thing? Because that would have made total sense. Because I know someone somewhere, some kid who was like, well, how did she know to look on the wall?
You got to do the George Lucas, DJ MacHale cut. You got to go back and with CGI fix everything.
Right. Yeah.
Get a dancing scene.
She was going down, noticed one of the bricks looked different than the others. Oh, I wonder if I can grab a cool. It came out. Oh, look, here's the thing.
Her voice is noticeable. Like, just do a new voiceover with her, but the voice is noticeably older. But This
Or
one's
even Andy,
different.
maybe you should look in the wall.
Who said that?
Disembodied
Okay.
voice.
There's something down here. Well, did you do what it says? No.
Like a full CGI waif kid added into the scene, pointing at it.
But these are the things you have to think of that when you're doing, and you can make yourself crazy, and you're not going to get them all.
No, you can't.
So,
It's impossible.
Jordy, did you have any other questions as far as Silver Sight goes?
Oh, I have a million questions, but I'll take up all of our time by asking every question. But I do wanted to go over a few things, like so obviously you did the writing and you helped with a lot with the editing and the oversight of how it went. But I believe it was Mark S that directed, right, for it. Was there
Mark
anything?
Soulard.
Yeah. What was there anything about his directing that like you like he added in? I mean, obviously every director adds in some amount of addition. Everybody part of the creative process is adding some part to it, but is there something about like that he added to this thing to make it more cinematic, or you worked in tandem with him to make it more cinematic? Because there's definitely like these added cinematic quality to the way this was presented, I feel.
Right. Directly, no. I mean, that's because when it was, as I said, when I handed it over to production, it was out of my hands at that point. I mean, what I would do, and it's what I did with the first 65 too, is when just before we go into pre-production, or when we started pre-production, I should say, I would sit down first. I would sit down with all the department heads to go through every script, fine tooth every script to say this is what this should be, this is what I have in mind and whatnot. And then a director would come on the week before we started production, and then I'd sit down with the director to say, okay, let's talk about how this is going to work. And I gave the directors pretty much free rein to use their style. And the directors that I hired, I knew they had the style, they had the sensibility to create the tension, to get the right stuff. So with Mark, yeah, I knew he had it. So I didn't have to add. I mean, there was nothing particularly style wise that I said, now try to get this low angle. I didn't.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Really.
Because I like near the end, right, when they're around the carnival, there's this like the very like prominent like blue lighting, right, and it feels very like homaging, reminiscent of the intro, right, with the blue tones of the intro, the blue night tones of the intro, and I felt like that was like a very, I don't know if it was intentional 100% in that way, but it definitely to me called back to that, and it kind of added this like gravitas of like the intro that you've been seeing at the beginning of every episode, like those same blue tones of the branding of Are You Afraid of the Dark are like bleeding into like the final like epic moment of the story. And then it kind of felt like Indiana Jones when they opened the Ark of the Covenant with the ghost, and the way it's presented. I just thought it looked really, really, really good, especially at the time. So
Well, I think you may be giving too much credit to think that it was actually a throwback to the opening and whatnot. But it was more just, I mean, from a directorial point of view, it's about setting up the contrast between what it's like when they first get there and when the lights come on the carousel. So that was really to have it really down and monotone and whatnot, because then when the carousel came to life,
right, it
it was
pops
that
more.
much of a stark
Yeah.
difference. So
Okay.
and I thought that was really well done. I mean, you have no idea how low budget this show is. And that's one of the things I was impressed with, that Mark could pull that off. All those, even the Indiana Jones moments, that wasn't more. I mean, that was the post-production guys, but it really worked for a cheapy kid show. I thought it was an inexpensive kid show.
I mean, you can say it's cheap all you want, but I mean, it looks good, and a lot of the stuff is convincing. And I mean, even if it is cheap, it doesn't show every single time. I mean, there's a lot of kids horror shows that are on at the same time that couldn't be caring as much about like trying to make things look good, and they're just doing it as absolutely cheap as possible.
Well, talk about one of the mantras as a showrunner to try to keep everybody on the same page, which was we want to push the envelope as far as we can without pushing it too far, because we don't want to go into, oh, this looks bad. Because if we can't make something that looks good, and we did a couple of times where it's just like, I want to cough, and like no one can watch it when it happened. Not but in other episodes. You want to push it as far as you can within your means, It's better to do something that looks really good and maybe not be as wow as you would like it to be, but it's really solid and it doesn't break reality and it doesn't smack of that's really bad. So and I think we pretty much probably 95% of the time we held to that, where we didn't overstep our means.
Right, and to get into a place where your budget didn't catch up to like what you had to make. Yeah,
you're gonna do something that's just bad, like so but yeah, I was impressed. I'm watching, I was like, "Whoa, this holds up better than I thought."
Yeah, it holds up really well.
Yeah. It's one of those, and I hate that that's the reality of it. But a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark fans, they love seasons 1 through 5, and then seasons 6 and 7 get dogged. And I really don't understand why. There's a lot of very good episodes in those 2 seasons, but it's pretty much almost unanimous within the fan base that the Silver Sight episodes are an absolute highlight, not just of those seasons, but of the series.
Yeah, that gets a pass. well, and there's an irony in there too, because I think one of the reasons that season 6 and 7 get dogged is because it's a different Midnight Society.
Right.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
And I get it. But believe me, if those 5 kids, there are only 5 in the 6 and 7, if those 5 kids were the first Midnight Society, they would be the good Midnight Society.
Yeah.
And the other kids would like, oh, they're just not the same. So if someone watched the show first when they're 10 years old, 8 years later, they're 18. For one, they've kind of aged out of the show too. But they want to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark? And they're like, oh, this isn't the same, therefore it's bad. But the tales themselves, they're the same ratio of good to not as good as there was in the first season.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of my favorites was actually the very last show we did, The Tale of the Night Nurse.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Dang, that was good.
That jump scare in that one's really good too.
I mean, she
holds up.
Hypodermic needle. That was good. There
Tale
were
of
a handful like that.
Tale of Many Faces is my second favorite Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
Wow.
I really love that one.
And it would so the irony is that you're right, Silver Sight does get a pass, yet it's with the Midnight Society that nobody likes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It's because Gary came back. That's why.
Oh yeah.
That probably factored in. You're right. It did. So I don't know. But it does bug. We probably talked about it. It does bug me. It's like, well, you're missing a lot.
There's some really good stuff there.
Yeah.
Shows like Vampire Town was really good. And, Forever Game was good.
Oh,
and I love the Sardo with Jay Baruchel.
Yes.
Oblivion. No, Oblivion.
No.
Well, that too.
Well, yeah.
Time Trap. That was a different season. Time Trap is where there was a genie. Was that Time Trap? I guess.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I think it's Time Trap. Yeah, it's where Sardo. There's the genie, and then there's this whole headcanon we had came up with at Splat Attack about like it's Sardo possibly being a genie and not knowing it, and that's why everything in his shop is like turns out to be the thing he says it is, even though he's just making stuff up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that was it. And the scene where they go to the mother and his whole life had changed, and he's with the mother, and Sardo's just like, mothers don't like me.
Oh my god, there's a few times with Sardo where it's like a Tale of Oblivion where you're like, oh, this is gonna be awkward. Hi, I'm here at home alone with your kids. I'm just a regular guy, don't worry.
Hi, parents.
They were really, really good episodes, but they don't get the love because it's, I don't know, because partly because it was different Midnight Society, and partly I think a lot of people are complaining were older when they watched those things and it didn't have the same.
They were young when they watched the show, and then they got older and they thought it wasn't as scary, but they just got older.
I think that's a big part of it. So if you go and because it's harder to see those episodes now for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yes, I was gonna say Paramount Plus will not put them up. Why?
No.
Paramount. Why do you own something if you won't distribute it?
I know. If people took the time like you guys did to watch it, to say, these are actually pretty good.
Go to Twitter, everybody, and tell them release 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Pat, I know that you had a question that's not Silver Sight related, but you've always been curious about.
It's true. Apropos of nothing. So I notice little details when I'm watching stuff, little recurring references here and there, and I'm trying to think, what's the significance of the wild boar specifically to Dr. Vink. It's been mentioned in Phantom Cab, Cutter's Treasure, Dangerous Soup, and then in the photo finish, I think, which was not a Vink tale, but it's always,
Remember that?
yeah, he needs to eat like wild boar intestines or something as like initiation. Anyway, the phrase wild boar, I'm just like, what is significant about this, especially to Vink? So while I have you here,
I can answer that question. And it's not that significant other than the line that I wrote when in Phantom Cab, which is Vink's first appearance, where he's this mad scientist and he's got all this stuff. And the idea is he's freaking out these kids. He's like, I got the brain of a wild boar.
The brain of a wild boar.
That was random. That was wild boar sound better than saying pig, you know. Wild boar sound a little more exotic than the pig. At the time of writing that, and frankly, in writing Super Specs, I didn't even know if we're going to get a second season out of the show. But we did. And so when it's time to come up, ooh, okay, what are the show's going to be in the second season? It was those two characters, Vink and Sardo, that I thought, boy, if there's any opportunity to bring back a recurring character, to have them each in one episode a season, it would be those guys. So there's so many Vinkisms that came out that started randomly from Phantom Cab, which really had no reference to anything other than what they were, that I thought, okay, just to keep the motif going, I'll continue some of the things on as a throwback to that. So Wild Boar was one of them. Actually, I don't think he references it in Midnight Madness.
I don't think he does either. But Cutter's Treasure is the wild boar coiffure, and then the restaurant in Dangerous Soup is the wild boar.
Boar, right?
Yeah.
So it was just fun throwbacks, like having Sardo saying "No, Mr. Accent on the dough."
On the dough.
Yeah.
I am not a nutbag.
Can I tell you a fun Cutter's Treasure story? Actually?
Yes, please do.
Absolutely.
Okay, apropos of what we're talking about before, Cutter's Treasure was an hour-long episode that had to be cut down into 2 half hours. When you do that, you had to lose some content from the episodes because you had to add another Midnight Society, you had to have credits and all that kind of stuff. So I had to go through each of those episodes and go frame by frame, trying to cut it down without losing important story points, make the story still flow. So literally it's frames, like we got 5 frames here. Can we do it just to get it down?
Yeah.
There was one little section that I regret having to lose, but it didn't mean anything to the plot, really. Okay, I don't know last you saw Cutter's Treasure, but I'll try to just describe it as it was. So the kid, Rush is his name, Dominic, goes to Sardo, and he wants to know where this treasure chest came from. And Sardo says, well, you can go ask him, and he gives him the card for the wild boar coiffure. Cut to, now we're talking about the 2 half-hour episodes now. Cut to this dark alley at night, and the kid's walking he's got the card, and he's looking at the dresses, and there's an old lady there with her warming her hands against a fire, where there's an ash can with fire going on, and he looks up at this thing and he sees the number of the wild boar coiffure. Cut to him walking down the stairs into the wild boar coiffure, and then he meets Dr. Vink, and Vink has all these potions, different colorful potions, and he says, oh, would you like to try some of my potions? They have such medicinal properties. And he smells it and he goes,
They have such interesting properties. Shall I massage a few drops into your scalp?
What I cut out from the hour version, if you ever see the hour version, Sardo gives him the card, says, go see this guy at the Wild Boar Coiffure. Cut to Rush walking down that alleyway, and he looks around and sees the lady with the thing like this, and he looks up at the number, and the door opens to the Wild Boar Coiffure, and this guy comes out. This guy wearing a business suit, and he says, "Excuse me, is this the Wild Boar Coiffure?" And the guy flips out. He starts going, which was a setup for what Vink does a little later on when he smells the thing. So what Vink did in the hour-long version was kind of a throwback to what was set up in that thing. But it didn't hurt the plot that able to cut out that 15 seconds, which was critical. The fun thing about it is that, and I don't remember when it happened. I don't think it was on the set. I directed Cutter's Treasure. I don't think it was on the set. It must have been in the editing room afterwards, watching the scene where the guy flips out. And I thought, ooh, we've got a show coming up later in the season. There's a part this guy would be perfect for. So based on that one scene that was cut out of Cutter's Treasure, is he got the job as the Ghastly Grinner.
Oh my gosh, what? That's crazy.
So it was all just like, wow, that guy goes for it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean,
he could be the Ghastly Grinner, and he was.
You may not get your scene used in one thing, but you might be the most iconic character in the next thing. So that's
exactly.
That is so
that
cool.
same season, later on the same season. So it's.
I love Cutter's Treasure. It is really well done as a two-parter, and it's its own movie, obviously on its own. It's really awesome. I rewatch that once a year at least.
DJ, before the episode, I was telling you about my boys and how my oldest has nerves of steel. Last Halloween, they would go around the house and they were acting out Ghastly Grinner. My
really?
Yeah,
4 years old.
My oldest is grabbing the youngest by the face, not lifting him up, but then he would just start laughing. Ha 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 ha! And he'd lower him, and my oldest would turn around. Now, who needs a good laugh? And then they'd swap. They both wanted to play the Ghastly Grinner. They thought that was so cool. I would hear them giggling for hours, just doing the same scenes over and over. It was so cool.
Oh, that's great. I hope Ron Oliver hears this, because Ron Oliver he wrote that and he directed it, and that the Ghastly Grinner was his baby, and so I hope he hears this, because that's it's so much fun in general. I mean, Are You Afraid of the Dark in general, but anything you do, the fact that years later, a new generation, a new group of people, or whatever, or the same people remember fondly and whatnot. It's a good feeling until they criticize you for not putting an X on the inside of the.
Well, I think that is going to do it as far as questions for the Silver Site goes, as well as some superfluous questions, but they're still so much fun and entertaining.
Awesome trivia, behind the scenes knowledge.
But we do have more questions for DJ coming up soon. So stick around, and actually stick around. Please stick around for the commercial break, because DJ's got something in the commercial break that he wants to let all of you guys know about. Exclusive for you. So stick around for the commercial break. We've got quite a bit to share with you guys, including DJ. So stick around for the break. We'll be back soon.
Whoa, check out the carousel. I want to ride that thing, but I don't think I can fit on there. We'll be back with more Splat Attack Podcast.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Splat Attack. If you are enjoying this episode, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell button, and type all the letters and numbers, because we need reviews. If you are listening to us on a podcast app, reviews, we need them. Throw them out there. The algorithm loves it, and so do we. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We want to hear from you guys. We can only improve if you tell us how we do. If you enjoy all the Splat Attack fun, then you should check out some of the exclusive Splat Attack fun over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/SplatAttack, where we do watch some Are You Afraid of the Dark on occasion. With our slime streams, we do twice a month. We have exclusive bonus episodes every Friday. They're very short form, but they are a lot of fun. Oftentimes with us breaking each other and laughing at each other's expense. We have a lot of fun over there. So join us again on patreon.com/SplatAttack. Did you know that we have a Ghastly Grinner t-shirt? Did you know that we also have a Zebo t-shirt? You can find those over on our Bonfire page. Go to bonfire.com/store/SplatAttack store with hyphens in between, where we do have, as I said, Are You Afraid of the Dark shirts, but we also throw a lot of love to other 90s Nickelodeon content, as well as our own logo on wide variety of different types of shirts and colors and styles, and you can customize it to your heart's content. It's pretty flippin' sweet, if I do say so myself. So again, bonfire.com/store/Splat Store with hyphens in between. Go get that ghastly grinner or Zebo shirt today.
Thank you for letting me plug my new book that will be out August 21st. Now, I did, well, I'll plug 2 books. I did a book called The Paper Trail. It's a spooky book. It's an adult book, and that's out right now. And this is so much fun to write because I could write for adults, and I didn't have to. I mean, it still reads like it's a young adult book. But I've got another book coming out that's the beginning of a new series. So my new series that comes out August 21st, this is the first, is called The Tyrion League, and it's a science fiction adventure. It's about a guy, he's 15 years old, who's a real troubled kid. Now, actually, it says this on the back, so I can say it now. So it's not that bad. He's kind of a troubled kid. He's a foster kid. He was abandoned when he was a baby, and he was raised by various foster families, none of which love foster families, but the ones that he got involved with weren't that successful and nurturing him and all that. So he became kind of a tough kid to stand on his own, and he's a rough character. He's always getting in trouble, and part of it's his fault too. But at the very beginning of the story, he finds himself, and it's a good situation, finally. It's like, okay, he's got a foster father who seems pretty cool. He's okay at school, he's settled, he's doing well at sports. So he finally sees a future where he hadn't up to that point in his life. Until a hit squad from another planet comes down to kidnap him. and that's where the story begins, where he finds out what his history really is, and why he was abandoned, why he would all back. And it's a major, huge science fiction adventure, and it's called The Tyrion League. And thank you for letting me pitch that thing. August 21st. The first book is called Donovan 6. Donovan is the name of the guy. So thank you for letting me do that. Thank you.
Tune in next time, Slimesters, when we take a look back at our Season 8 highlights and tease some cool things to come for Season 9. You can find all the retro-rific action only here on Splat Attack.
This seems a bit more my speed. I can fit on this one, and James Stanley is here with me, riding on the... I hope this isn't the broken record. Anyway, welcome back to Splat Attack Podcast.
Welcome back, all of you Slimesters. Happy to have you back. Make sure to go check out DJ's new book coming out.
Yes.
So that's awesome. I'm glad that he's got something new coming out and was able to share it here. So that's awesome. But we do want to give our very, very brief reviews of The Tale of the Silver Sight. So for those of you who've never heard our reviews before, we rate them like a report card, A through F, but we also have 3 tiers above an A if it's an exceptional tier. So we have S, double S, triple S. Triple S is the highest that you can go. So I'm going to actually start with Jordy because he's probably the biggest fan of Are You Afraid of the Dark out of the 3 of us. What do you rate The Tale of the Silver Sight?
I give the Silver Sight a 10 out of 10. I'm giving it a triple S. It's literally, it's everything you could ask for. I mean, if I was asked what I would do if I had to do an Are You Afraid of the Dark finale movie, this is exactly what I would do. You take the characters that have spent this whole time telling these stories and you put them in a story, and that's what you get here. And it adds stuff like that you would only get, I think, by someone like DJ, the creator of the show, still writing on it after all this time, is that it's this generational thing of the Midnight Society, right? Which we kind of had an idea because of Tucker and Gary's relationship with each other, right? And he passed it on to Tucker, but to find out how long it's been going since his grandpa, and then it just opens up these doors for questions, right? It just keeps going and what were the stories that the original Midnight Society told, that was to their time? What's their version of virtual pets? Hoop and stick you know. So
The tale of the hoop and stick.
But yeah, it's so good. It's so good, and I love it. I love Stephen King stuff, and it felt very Stephen King, and a lot of the ways that it played out, like we discussed. I'm gonna kill Alex. I know it one day.
I can't.
It's a really good story. So obviously, triple S. And I love theme parks. I love haunted theme parks. They work in the haunted theme park. They work in the references to Zebo, my favorite episode. So triple S.
Hoop and stick.
It's fun to stay. Hoop and stick.
Hoop and stick and meat tubes.
Oh no.
I have a theme going if you can find it.
Oh gosh. It's so funny. Kat, what about you?
I'm also going to give it a triple S for all the same reasons Jordy said, and also because I can't look at Alex when he's laughing. The more I watched these 3 episodes, the more I notice, the more references I notice, the more questions I have, the more I appreciate it, the more I appreciate the writing. And we were talking earlier about like the non-linear story structure, and I think that I could tell, and I'm glad to know that DJ had fun writing it. So yeah, I think this is an episode that bridges the old with the new Midnight Society as well in a cool way. So anybody, for whatever reason, if they weren't tuning into season 6, what were you doing? Because it's still good. Like,
yeah.
Hey, bring Gary back. Hey, audience, we got some of the old guys back here, so tune in because the rest of the season 7 is gonna be good too. But yeah, it's a great way to either have it as the season opener or even a finale, just having the Midnight Society in a story, and the way they did it I think was really cool. And having a story within a story too, and having the old Midnight Society telling the story at the end, sort of like tying it all together. And what does it all mean? We still have questions. But anyway, yes, it was a fun ride. I appreciate all the references, and also seeing some of the other actors come back. We discussed a few of them, but also Shandu came back. James Bradford, love him. Yeah, it's just really fun. It's fan service, it's fun, it's clever, it's a mystery on top of the ghost story. So 10 out of 10, triple S. Put it in the Pantheon already.
Well, I still have to give my review. I might make it a double S so that way it can't go into this Pantheon.
So Jordy doesn't make the graphic? No.
Well, then if that's the case, yes, I give this an F, although not really. No, I also...
F for fun, right?
No, it deserves to be up there. I'll make the graphic.
No, F for what the F are all of you thinking for not watching season 7. That's what I'm going to say, because this was a great episodes, series of episodes. Everything that was said, I second. I also really appreciate the fact that DJ was able to rewatch this series again and be able to really enjoy it, which is a testament to when you know you've done something right. Which, as a creator, I totally understand that feeling. It's fan service, but it's expanding upon the fan service, and
Yes.
It's the good kind.
It's the good kind. It's not just, ooh, hey, we're throwing Gary in to be there. There's a purpose
Yes,
for it.
ending itself. It's okay. Yes, this is good, and we're adding something new.
Yes. So I also am going to give this a triple S, which will put that in the Splat Attack Pantheon officially. So Jordy, make the graphic. All right, well, that is going to be it as far as the main portion of the episode goes, but we do have our closing segment for the episode. And Splat Stanley, what is our segment for the episode, bud?
Alrighty, let's give this wheel a spin. Oh, look at me, I'm like the carousel. Hope there's no silver side up here. Oh.
Think Fast to Make the Grade is the segment that we're doing.
Time to think fast to make the grade. Well, you guys heard from the Splat of Stanley. We have Think Fast to Make the Grade, which is it's our trivia-based game. Kat has gone through and picked some questions, all that are from the episodes, things that you see and hear. You don't have to know behind-the-scenes stuff. It's just what all of us viewers have seen. So, Kat, I will throw it to you.
All right. Question 1 is worth 1 point.
Okay.
What year was the original Midnight Society founded? DJ.
And believe me, this does not come from behind the scenes. This comes from just having watched it.
Yeah.
Yes.
1937?
Correct.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. Walter Massey, who played Bob McGorrell, was in what other Are You Afraid of the Dark episode?
I know this one.
Jordy.
Vacant Room. Right? Vacant Room?
Vacant Room?
Vacant.
Not...
Vacant.
Oh,
room.
Vacant Room. Oh.
Vacant Room.
It's not the exact title, but I know what you're going for, so I'll give it to you.
Yeah, it was the Room for Rent was the
Room
was
for
the
Rent.
title.
That's what.
Yes.
But you got it.
Yes.
In
Jordy.
watching it, I was like, I knew he was in another episode, and I couldn't remember which one it was.
I always remember him. He's the voice of Papa Beaver from Papa Beaver Storytime. That's how I know him. Anyway.
I remember him as the landlord owner of that apartment. Because he's like kind of like mean, but he's also nice at the same time. And at the end, I like that little character thing where he seems like really mean, but then by the end he kind of seems.
Sheena Larkin's in that episode too. Anyway.
Yeah.
Worlds collide.
Every episode.
Yeah.
She is.
She's probably in it almost as much as Ross Hull.
Yeah. All right. Question 3 is worth 2 points now. How does Peggy Gregory take her tea?
In a cup.
I
was just talking about this.
Yes.
How specific do you want to get?
I'll throw that one in. With all the sugar possible that's on the table.
Yes, a lot of sugar.
Specific.
A lot of sugar. Okay, question 4.
It was so funny.
I love it. Question 4 is also worth 2 points. What does Grandma Aggie throw at the intruder when he chases her up the stairs?
Oh God, she does throw something. What was
DJ.
it?
Like a laundry basket?
Yep, basket of laundry.
I love that she threw it, and he wasn't even on the stairs yet.
Yeah.
But he had to come up the stairs, so it's an obstacle.
Yeah, he could have tripped over it.
Yeah.
And it was the general, so he legit could have tripped over it.
Yeah.
Question 5 is worth 3 points. Why didn't Vince have a Beware of Dog sign out in front of the junkyard?
This one. He ain't got no dogs.
Yeah.
What other episode was he in?
Oh God. Okay.
I remember this one.
I don't know that one.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Wait, you've stumped us. What is it, DJ?
He was the headmaster in the hatching.
Oh, he is. Okay. Okay.
All right.
With the lizard arm.
Yeah, the lizard arm and doesn't like noises.
Yeah. Last question, question 6 is worth 3 points. When General Candle is talking about how no one who's touched the silver sight has emerged undamaged, he stares at a very specific sculpture that could be also considered a clue. What is the sculpture of? Alex.
It was a man riding a horse.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because then it panned over to that.
Like it was going to have some significance.
Yeah. He's staring at it and the camera pans down to it. Yeah.
It's the clue.
So Alex wins
trivia
by 1
question.
point.
I do. Well, no, it's really a trivia answer.
Okay.
Lang Candle.
Yeah.
That's my partner's Ned's real name.
Oh.
Ned Candle I created the show with. His
Oh.
real name is Lang.
I was wondering if Candle, because Candle with a K versus Candle with a C in the credits. Okay.
Yeah, he tells the story about when he was in college. He hated to have a name Lang because it was so unique. He says, "I don't like people. I want to be wallpaper." I don't. So he said to his sister, "I just call me Ned."
No.
So he was Ned, but his real name is Lang Candle.
Okay, all right. A little trivia here.
That is going to be it. It's been a long time since we've done a trivia based thing. I like that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Trivia's always
But
fun.
we do have one more question, and this question is for all of you Slimesters out there. Our closing question is, what other campfire tale would you have liked to see the Midnight Society take part in? You guys know the drill. You can write to us via email at splatattack2021@gmail.com. You can DM us on all of our socials. Just look for Splat Attack Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe. I will try not to mumble that word. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not done so already. Interact with us wherever you can. We're always happy to hear from you. Again, DJ, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
for
So
taking the
awesome
time
to
Yes.
finally
come
meet
in and share all this
video
with us.
person, especially.
Oh, I thank you guys. It's always fun talking to you guys, but it also prompted me to go back and watch that show again, which is really fun.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. It was really cool.
We keep trying to find fun ways to bring people back and have them do something they didn't get to do last time. So I'm glad that we get to do that for you. Until our next episode, will you help me put the campfire out, please? This is definitely Hazard, and I'm surprised we haven't set off the fire alarms yet.
Aye, co-captain. I declare this episode of the Splat Attack podcast officially over.
Yep, there it is. All right.
Perfect.
Spot you later.
This episode was recorded at Splat Attack Studios and virtual home studios, though none in Florida.